All right, with the mayor staying in office and now heading to a treatment program, what's next for his accusers? What's next for our city? Our legal analyst, attorney Anna Yum and Dan Gillian, join us now with a breakdown of what lies ahead. Wow, what does lie ahead? Guys, good morning. First of all, who knows? Dan, that's probably a good answer. Let's start with talk of a recall. This is all we're hearing about. Unlike city employees, apparently there's no moral clause in the mayor's, explain this, and also if there was a moral clause, then he'd be out already. So how does this work?
Well, he's a CEO, first of all, so it's very difficult, but he talks about a lot about due process, and that's been somewhat of a red herring, which I think happened only because of the way this was kind of presented as a stunt without people actually coming forward. But moving on, this whole idea of due process is really where a government worker, not a private person like us, working for a private employer, a government worker says, my employer is a government, you can't take my job without due process. And he's jumped on that, and he's used phrases like, I want to face my accuser, all this bunch of red herring, bunch of nonsense. Due process simply means you get a hearing, you show up, and the decision is affirmed. That's all it means.
And also, I'd like to make a point as to what you were saying, Dan, about due process. Well, in my opinion, Bob Filner has completely lost all credibility, because in the beginning, if you remember, he said, I'm sorry, I have a problem. And then he says, he's pounding his fist on the table and saying, I want due process.
Right.
And now he's saying, I'm so sorry again, I'm going to therapy. So essentially, everything that's coming out of his mouth, I just don't agree with. I think he's lost
which is
credibility.
it? You're left kind of wondering, well, he's admitting to doing all this?
Yeah.
Right.
Is he not admitting to
well, he's pulling a Tiger Woods and say, I need to go to therapy and learn how not to be a jerk.
Basically,
right? But you know, I think what happened here, because of the way this was presented as a stunt, he really, they could have, Lori Jackson, she's such an impeccable witness. She's going to destroy him in court. If she had come out from the very beginning and did what she did with Gloria Allred, Mr. Filner wouldn't be here, because what happened was because of the way it was done in a kind of a stunt way, he was able to rally, I think, some support from other people. I mean, if you remember the city council or the committee with for the Democrats, they voted kind of down the middle initially because there wasn't a face to the accuser.
Right.
He was able to get some support. And what happens a lot of times in these political sex scandals is the person will not resign, because there's people out there saying, I'm going to support you, but you better not resign right away, because I'm going to be, with egg on my face. So I think really as time goes on, pressure builds up and all the support dies away.
And it already has died. I mean, statistically speaking, if we're talking about San Diegans here, 60% of San Diegans want him out. They either want him recalled or they want him to resign. I don't think at this point people are really supporting him at all.
You know, when a politician gets to a certain office, there are a whole bunch of people that you don't hear about that support the mayor, that support people in campaigns, financially, whatnot. Who is still left in the mayor's corner at this point, publicly at least?
Well, he doesn't have a future. He's 70 years old. This is his last hurrah, and I think he's just clinging. He's sitting there saying, how can I be ending my political career like this? I've got to do something. I'm going to pull a Tiger Woods and ask for therapy.
And even over the weekend,
it's kind of sad.
Senator Dianne Feinstein was saying, listen, I think he should leave because he lacks moral compass, and she said, either you inspire people or you don't, and she's definitely not in his corner. I think that's very limited.
To answer the question, no one's supporting him, but except himself and maybe his family.
His tiny circle.
We got a couple of attorneys here, so the question now is, give me a Filner strategy if he were your client today.
Well, if he were my client, I think that what Mr. Berger's doing, his attorney, is right. He's going to therapy. He's trying to mitigate at this point, because there's just been so much damage that's already been done. At this point, it's about being humble about it, accepting responsibility, and trying to move on and trying to lead by example at this point.
I'd be telling him, tell the truth, just like he did from the very beginning. I have a problem. I treated women poorly. Tell the truth. If you don't want to step down, Mr. Filner, tell the truth, because if you don't and you face a jury and the jury thinks you're lying and denying responsibility, you're going to get hammered. If we turn this into, Ms. Jackson, how badly were you harmed, we might be able to survive it.
Let's talk before we go, because monetary, what are we talking about, the damages potentially?
500 grand. That's what I'm thinking. 500,000.
I agree with you. I agree.
Per victim or overall?
No, Ms. Jackson. Ms. Jackson is going to destroy him in court. It's just it's not going to be a fair fight. I think that if Harvey Berger turns this into how much should Ms. Jackson get, versus did my client do anything wrong, I think he can probably keep it under the $500,000
They need
mark.
to settle. The bottom line is
You don't
they
think
need
this is
to
going to
settle.
court?
If it goes to court, it'll be well in excess of $1 million. If it goes to trial,
No jury, please, if I
Man,
can.
I love when these two guys come on. They're like, they're not holding back. This is what, it's that
Yeah,
obvious
it's
and that easy for you, huh?
easy.
It's our opinion,
No
right?
brainer.
Exactly.
Wow.
settle.
Stay tuned. Good times ahead.